Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Hey everyone, this is a very special Sonic X themed crossover event with Pink Gamecube. Follow the link in the description below to see her half of the collaboration. Although I could say that it's a triple crossover with Stegosaurus, whose epic 3D model made this whole thing possible. Although, I guess it's a quadruple crossover, because I can't forget about Corey. He's my usual model guy, and he's the one that got me the models for Cosmo. So, yeah, this is all a big old thing. So let's get started with my half of the crossover, Dark Oak, the final boss of the Sonic X anime. Before I get down to making this figure, I feel like I should spend some time to remind all of you just how big a deal Dark Oak actually was back in the day. I could go on and on about how Sonic X Season 3 is probably the best Sonic cartoon ever made alongside Saturday Morning, but that's not what this video is about. But I will bring up how it starts, with a visibly hurt Super Sonic. This is a big deal, especially in the anime, where Sonic has always defeated whatever stood before him easily in his super form. But then we see this guy. This intimidating silhouette reveals itself to be some Gundam-esque robot with a sword, who is so tough that Super Sonic can't beat it, forcing him to scatter the Chaos Emeralds throughout the cosmos so that he can't claim them. It's a battle where Super Sonic loses a face-to-face, one-on-one fight. That's something that had never happened before, or since, really, and that is how we're introduced to Dark Oak. Around the same time, we're introduced to this little alien girl, one whose design seems to be vaguely based on Lumina Flowlight from Sonic Shuffle. And this is Cosmo. Did anybody ever watch that cartoon, War Planet Shadow Raiders? She's basically like Tekla from that show. The robot girl on the left of the picture. I mean, I don't know how many of you seen War Planets, but, you know, it's just out there. Now, Cosmo reveals that Dark Oak is the leader of a robot army called the Metarex, and they're collecting planet eggs, a mystical artifact that every life-bearing planet possesses. Taking it will either cause the planet to wither or have its environment radically altered. We also find out that, although she was on a refugee ship with others of her kind, Cosmo is tragically the last of her people. I'd also like to mention that Cosmo develops a romantic subplot with Tails, and it's the most well-developed and charming relationship in the entire show. But we're not talking about that. Let's go back to Evil Space Robots. Over the course of this season, Sonic and his friends battle many of the Metarex robots, but when confronting one of their leaders, Knuckles is able to break its armor, revealing that the leaders aren't robots at all. No, the Metarex are organic aliens themselves. And furthermore, they're the same race as Cosmo. Dun dun dun. Flashback. It seems that before she was born, Cosmo's people were in an interplanetary war, and the males of her species had the ability to transform themselves into massive kaiju that possess great destructive power. But it only lasts a short time, and it's fatal to the user. This is where we're introduced to Cosmo's father, Lucas, a scientist obsessed with refining their transformation to last longer and not kill the user. This is when he discovers the power of the planet egg, and he harvested the energy of his own planet to enhance himself and the other men. But it's a Pyrrhic victory since it's at the cost of his own planet's life. This caused a rift to form between him and Cosmo's mother, Earthia, which is why she and the other females fled on that refugee ship, which is where Cosmo was born. She was the last child that would ever be born to their people. And of course, with the power of only one planet egg, Lucas still isn't able to completely win the war, so he was forced to make those mech suits not just to continue the fighting, but also as life support. And that's where we get Dark Oak, Black Narcissus, Pale Bayleaf, Yellow Zelkova, and Red Pine, the 5 leaders of the Metarex, and the last survivors of this destructive war. Dark Oak's nefarious plan comes to a head when he finally collects the 7 Chaos Emeralds, whose power he can combine with the hundreds of planet eggs he's managed to steal to create a planetary construct. Using the eggs as a nutrient source and the emeralds for energy, they're finally able to complete their transformations, becoming a 3-headed cosmic horror. Oh, by the way, before this point, 2 of them are, destroyed, so, 3 heads. I think I forgot to mention that Cosmo's people are sentient plants, and whatever started their war, it became a quest to eliminate all animal life in the universe so that plants could take over. With nearly infinite power at their disposal, the surviving members of the Metarex start draining the life force from all around them. But Cosmo uses the energy of a gem given to her by her mother to grow into her full adult form, the flowers on her bed, the flower buds on her head blooming, and she holds back Dark Oak long enough for Sonic and Shadow to destroy this construct. Honestly, the way it involves a giant gun that fires super hedgehogs at an evil planet, I can't help but feel that this was the inspiration for the finale of Sonic Frontiers' Final Horizon boss fight against the End. Honestly, anyone who watched Sonic X, did you get flashbacks when you were playing the Final Horizon DLC? Admit it. Now, after the battle is over, Sonic is only able to find one small seed, which he gives to a tearful Tails. It's planted and starts sprouting to give us a bittersweet ending to this story. It's left ambiguous as to whether this plant will eventually reincarnate Cosmo, or if it'll grow into a new mother tree from which a new generation of Cedrians will spawn. Oh, by the way, Cedrian seems to be a fan-made name for Cosmo's people. They didn't actually have an official species name in the show itself. That's kind of weird. And though this little plant only technically exists in the Sonic X continuity, it has received a couple of nods elsewhere, usually in the form of a small potted plant seen in Tails' workshop. Even the Lego set homages it. Now that I've covered all that, let's begin actually making the toy for all of you. Our story begins with a Stegosaurus livestream. He offhandedly mentioned how he was going to do a project with a Star Fox figure, but he'd had to make a tail since his figure didn't have one. Well, some time ago, SparkleWolf404 sent me a box of old and damaged toys that I could use as custom bases, which included a fox figure that had a leg broken beyond repair, but a fully intact tail. So I offered this figure to Steak, and he said he would model something for me in return. Stegosaurus is an insanely talented modeler, and I finally saw an opportunity to get something that I always wanted, a printable model of Dark Oak that I could use to make a custom. So over the course of a couple months during subsequent modeling streams, he created a model that I could use to make this dream custom. Now the base toy isn't actually a figure, rather it's a bunch of Mega Construx ball joints from that Ekans set. I guess technically it's an Ekans figure, but it would be used to articulate the parts that are made from Steak's model. Because this is a special one, I used a color-shifting filament that my cousin Raven gave me some time ago that I've been saving for a project that didn't need to be painted, and this was the perfect project for it. There was a little bit of a snag where the shoulder and hip armor was too big for the body, but Stegosaurus fixed it, and then I had everything I needed. I used this filament so I wouldn't have to paint the entire thing, but of course some painting was involved. For his silvery metallic bits, like on his helmet, I mixed a drop of sky blue paint into my silver to put down an initial coat, and then when it dried, put an extra layer of silver on top of it to leave just the slightest tinting of blue. And the gem is a mix of silver and green paint. There are a few places where darker navy blue was used, such as highlights in the body and for the bicep and thigh pieces. But if I ever do this again, now I know which parts I need to make with the color shifting filament and which I can do with some more basic stuff. These color spools are, smaller than my regular spools, so they run out faster. Don't want to go using them too frivolously. Now the last part is the cape. Or capes, since he has one on each of his shoulder pads. I repurposed it from the cloak that I used to make my movie Amy custom. After the initial pictures, I never really used it for her, so I figured this would be better use. And I used my navy blue dye, diluted down a bit so it comes out in this bluish gray shade, and then cut off the stitches that held the two halves together to make a symmetrical pair that I could stick onto the shoulder pads with hot glue. Now we finally have Dark Dark Oak in all his glory. In an ideal situation, the hip armor would be on its own swivel so it wouldn't limit the leg's movements, but, since it's just a 3D printed custom, I think this came out amazing. 3 cheers for Stegosaurus and his epic model. Real quick, I want to cut to some live video, if for no other reason than to show off that color shifting plastic. Hey everyone, just wanted to get some live video in for the Dark Oak figure. I'm hoping that the camera is capturing this effect because it's made out of that special filament that goes through some color shifting depending on what angle the light hits. So if this is all working properly, then you should be seeing subtle shifts from a blue to purple hue as I rotate the camera around it. And this is really just something that you can't capture in still frame, which is why I'm glad that I have an opportunity to actually just do this for all of you. Okay, so a Dark Oak figure actually exists in the world now. You're welcome, everybody. But yeah, seriously, thank you all for watching this video. I really did want a Dark Oak figure for the longest time, and I was always upset that Season 3 of Sonic X didn't really get any unique merchandise. But, now I have this, and it's really cool. So, let's let Sonic take us out like he always does.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Sonic the Hedgehog. Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wake Angel 2001. Because between you and me, they're way past cool.